Welcome to the Omnisports podcast, featuring your host, Bobby Labita and Zach Lowe. All right. Hello and welcome in everyone to another episode of the Omnisports Baseball Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bobby Labita, back with one of my best friends and favorite people to talk sports about, or with, Zach Rome. Hey, Zach, how you doing today?
Bobby, doing fantastic, man. Ready to talk sports and ready to go down the baseball hierarchy with you.
Yeah, so it's right now, for everyone's reference, May 30th. It is 8:30 p.m. Pacific, so you East Coasters are probably asleep, and us Pacific time coasters are still dreading that, we're so close to the weekend, just one more day, but we're not there yet. How you feeling, Zach? Just where are you at right now about feeling about sports just in general?
Sports has been good. Just got finished watching the Mavs dismantle the Timberwolves. I know this is an MLB podcast, but NBA has been on fire. Mavs Celtics finals. Who doesn't love that? And baseball's been really hot too, dude. It's been fun.
Yeah, I really
watching the Dodgers.
It's been super fun watching the Dodgers. I feel like, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like right now it's a really I don't know if it's just the last year. I just feel like sports are just really good. You like I feel like basketball solved a lot of its parity issues. Like I don't like we keep getting new winners. Like we're gonna have another new winner again. I feel like baseball, like even though you still have like teams that are consistently good, like you still have like teams that can make runs. It feels like the most fair leagues have been, and then like the most like player friendly, which I think in turn, since the players are the ones that we're really watching. Not that the front office people and other people don't do really important good work, but I think we just, sports are fun. They're good.
I just think, as the games sort of get more global and we're seeing people from all these different countries come into the sports world, I think the talent level has just risen so much, in the NBA and MLB too, is just like the best the product's ever been for both baseball and basketball, I think.
Yeah, and I think as a sports fan, it's the best also like it's ever been. Like maybe it's not fun to have like 27 subscription services, but like the game is global. You could watch other leagues from other countries. Like it's just sports, good time. But I think sports, we can do better about figuring out streaming and all of that stuff and blackouts. Looking at you, MLB.
Yeah, MLB and their blackouts. Oh man, I think it used to be a lot worse than it is right now, but it still isn't great. But I think it's a problem that will be solved with time.
Yes, but I hope they do solve it because we want people to see this beautiful game. Also, you can't guard me. Okay, enough of that. But you know what? It's been a good time to be just in general the last decade or so a Dodgers fan. So Zach, how have our Dodgies? Well, so just for everyone's reference, we are both pretty open about our Dodger biases. We still love you, even if you like other teams, and please don't tune away. But we have to talk about our Dodgers for a little bit, and then we'll get into the rest of the MLB. How are we feeling about the Dodgers 2 months in to this season, Zach?
Well, they were doing really well, and they got into a little bit of a slump. But good time to face the New York Mets, I would say, and we'll get into the Mets in a little bit.
Yes, we will.
To sweep the Mets, I think the Dodgers are feeling good, get to go back home, get to play a bad Rockies team. So maybe we can get back, to a 4, 5, 6 game winning streak. Despite all the injuries that they've had and the bottom of the order not being so good, I think the team is still hitting on a lot of cylinders. And the fact that even though it hasn't been like the best time of the season, it hasn't been the worst, and they're still 6.5 games up in first place.
Yeah, I mean, when you can look like pretty terrible, but you're 5-5 in your last 10, and that's like the worst you've looked like, I'll take that. But yeah, the Dodgers got the injury bug in their pitching staff. It's spreading like COVID was a few years ago. Just there's one injury to the other, but leading the league. I just love looking at this stat right here. We got 2 Dodgers leading in average, with Mookie Betts number 1 right now with a 332 average, and Shohei, our boy, with a 330 average, just neck and neck with each other. And like, what a stressful way to start your day as a pitcher. Just like, okay, the 2 people that are currently the best in the whole sport at hitting the ball, you got to face them back to back. Good luck, buddy.
And then you have another MVP in Freddie Freeman lurking right around the corner too. It's like, damn, yeah, no breaks except for the bottom of the lineup. But the top 5, man, I think you could put that 5 against any team in baseball right now, and they would just dominate.
Yeah, right now you have Mookie tied for first in WAR, and then you
Yeah,
have Shohei who doesn't play half the inning. He's
yeah,
fifth. He's
that's
fifth,
crazy.
and like, well, oh my god, that's crazy. And well, that's just batting, but like that's he loses so much that big uphill. It's just crazy.
You could
Uh,
tell like 13-year-old Zach that like the days of Matt Kemp and Andre Ethier are not going to be the best Dodger days, and you're going to get two of the best players in the world on your team. Wouldn't believe it, but here we
yeah,
are.
yeah. Here we are. We prayed for times like this, Zach. But you know who did not pray for times like this?
Hmm.
Oh, you mentioned them earlier. The Mets. Oh, so Zach, if we're a Mets fan, what emotions are we feeling right now?
Dude, I feel like if you're a Mets fan, the season is already over, and we're not even in June. And the fact that you think the season is over, it's crazy. Like they got the new owner in Steve Cohen, right? You think, oh, this is where the Mets franchise is going to turn around, and they've been worse since they've got the new owner.
Yeah,
And it just seems like Mets fans. I'm not trying to like call it any specific individual, but like what I've seen on social media, what I've seen, just scrolling through Instagram, whatever, is that Mets fans are just down bad, dude. They are so depressed about this team. It seems like there's no life, there's no heart,
yeah.
and it's just not a good time to be a Mets fan right now.
No, it is not. The Mets feel right now to me how the Clippers fans used to feel, because I think the Clippers are now good and have been
Yeah.
for a while. And even as a Lakers fan, I'll admit that. You're a Mets fan and you're looking across town at the Yankees just soar. It's just like so painful. And oh my gosh, and you get this active owner who's willing to spend money, also like the Clippers, right? And then like you're just like, oh, like what this is gonna change everything. And it's like you said, it's just been worse. If you were a doctor, why would you diagnose things have been worse for the Mets, do you feel like, though, recently?
It just thinks that they've made some flashy moves, right? Like they signed Lindor to a long contract. They get some pitching help. Or at least last year they signed Scherzer, right? That didn't work out. It's not even June. They're 15 and a half games out of first right now.
Oh,
They're 12 and 19 at home. They lost eight out of their last 10 games. And just sort of a microcosm of the whole year. Pitcher for them, Jorge Lopez, after giving up, some runs against the Dodgers yesterday, threw his glove into the stands, which is a big no-no. Don't do that. Mets front office was not happy about that at all, and it's just sort of a little what's the word I'm looking for? It is a glimpse in how bad the season has been. And
yeah,
when your two best hitters are Lindor and Pete Alonso, and they're not having great seasons, there's just no protection in that lineup right now. Like
yeah.
there's really no stars that stand out. Their pitching has been mediocre. It's not good. If you're a Mets
Yeah.
fan, it's just not good.
Yeah, it's not good. I think you put it so well that people already feel like the season's done, and like I feel like at some point during this pod, Zach, I'm gonna go on a spirited rant about how long baseball seasons are and don't give up. But if you're a Mets fan, it's okay to give up. No,
Yeah, seriously.
and then adding more complexities to the Lopez situation. I had read, and I have not vetted this, but it seemed so. Feel free to fact check me. Is that I guess his son has been sick for a very long time, has been very ill, and some people wonder if there's issues pertaining to that could be boiling over. Doesn't necessarily justify throwing a glove into the stands, but maybe give him some. If that's true, I would give him more grace for the
Yeah.
situation. You're on a team that I think what makes it more painful for Mets fans is like I feel like Mets fans are always like optimistic going into the year. Because the thing is, there's some teams that are bad, but they're not down bad like Mets fans because they didn't have
Yeah.
hope. And Mets
Right.
fans, to quote Chucky from Rugrats, the secret to life is lowered expectations. Lower them. It's okay. We're just watching a sport. We're putting all of our emotions over some guys we've never met. It's gonna be fine, even though I say that as a Dodgers fan, and that could probably feel very insulting.
Yes.
But we had our bad times too. Our Frank McCourt days. I will not forget
Yeah.
anytime soon. So
I just want to go over this Mets lineup as I'm reading it here. Like Brandon Nimmo, who's batting 209 for them, is cleanup hitter for them right now.
Ooh.
JD Martinez is their big signing in the offseason, who was kind of like the Dodgers' sixth best player last year. He has an OPS of 761. Jeff McNeil, who was a hot bat for a while, he was, I think, the batting champion a couple of years ago. He's batting 224. I mean, this team, just all around on paper, is just not good, man. And Francisco Lindor is supposed to be their best player. He's batting 225, 687 OPS. Had 4 hits today against the Diamondbacks, and they won a game finally. But man, it's just there's no glimmer of hope in this team. They don't have a great farm system. They spent in the off seasons to get these big free agencies. It's not working out. Like Mets fans are giving up, and they might be giving up for multiple seasons at this point.
Yeah, I think it's always exciting to have a new owner that's willing to spend, but I think there's a desire to do the flashy thing. I think about Tepper and the Panthers, and for football, I don't, Cohen seems like an active owner, which like I don't think is inherently bad, but there's more maybe a propensity to meddle, or like, hey, well, let's do the big thing, and it's like sometimes the big thing is not the thing to do. I feel like. I think like if I'm a Mets fan, I hold my fat hat on the fact that like you have an owner that cares, like that's very clear and obvious, and that's I don't think true of all sports owners. So I think just having that someone who's in, but it might be a long ride, and like, or you're a Mets fan. Everyone's just having a very bad year at the same year, but Mets fans, don't talk yourself into that optimism until they give you a reason to be optimistic. See it first. See it first.
Yeah. Man, when you have the Phillies and the Braves in the same division, it's like, where's the hope coming from? And I want to touch on the Phillies maybe a little bit later, but yeah, dude, fourth in the NL East right now. Just no guys in the lineup that are standouts.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long year over there in New York, especially when you're looking over at the other side of the city, and you have the Yankees, who are first in the AL East. I think they have the best record in the American League. And
I think all of base. No, the Phillies. JK, they're essentially. Nah, that's not. I'm lying there. The Yankees are one game behind the Phillies. So,
gotcha. And I want to talk about the Yankees because they have, even without Garrett Cole, have like the best rotation in baseball, and like one of the best rotations ever. Just a quick stat here: like they entered Wednesday's game, combined ERA rotation of 2.73, which is the best in franchise history since 1917. If you think of all the good Yankees teams from then to 1917, and this is the best ERA wise. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt just won on the injured list, but this is a really good rotation, and they're even going to be scary good when Garrett Cole comes back. I would not want to play this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, it is. And the rotation is like you said, it's ridiculous, but their offense. So Zach, fun. You bring a stat. I got a stat. The Yankees are the only team to have 3 players for offense in WAR, in the league. So you have they're 6, 7, and 8, but you have Judge, Soto, and then who do you think's third?
Judge, Soto. Is it Anthony Volpe?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
He is 8th right now in WAR. So shout out to Anthony having a good season. Having a good season. There's some fun names on this list. Gunnar Henderson at the top with Mookie. It's just fun. But yeah, I think the Yankees. This is a great team. And it feels like them and the Orioles are kind of pulling away a little bit in that division, which I think is like, you kind of, the season comes in waves, and it's like, who's going to start pulling ahead, and you start seeing that. Will the other teams catch up? I don't know. It's like, especially with the winning percentages that they're at. Like, I think one thing to think about is like when you're dealing with teams that have these like 640 win percentages, like to catch them, you have to go like, 700 or 750 for like an extended period of time. And that's just like really difficult to do when like, God, these top teams are just so good.
Dude, like Juan Soto, man, like he was obviously a huge star in Washington and won a World Series with them. Gets traded to the Padres, kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. Yeah. And then gets back to the Yankees, and he's now developing into this mega star. And him and Judge back to back, I think he can rival Mookie and Shohei for sure.
Oh, definitely.
and Judge just hits nukes of home runs. Juan Soto is one of the hardest men to strike out on the planet. So when you have those two back to back and just the pitching staff, this Yankees team is really, really good.
Yeah, they're excellent, and it's just a lot of fun. But I'm still pulling for the Orioles in the East. It's my LA bias coming out, I'm sure, but I'm rooting for you, Baltimore.
Dude, Baltimore, even though they're in second place in the AL East, they're on pace to win 105 games right now, having probably one of their best seasons in franchise history. And dude, Gunnar Henderson, been an absolute stud, and he is probably leading the AL MVP race right now.
Yeah, and like it is what's wild, like the top probably seven teams are like at 100 win plus like rate, which like I can't remember, it was wild when like, I forget what year it was when like the Giants and Dodgers both were like at what plus 105, win
Yeah.
pace rates. That was like such a crazy season. But then you have like multiple of these teams, like the Orioles, you said what was the win rate again? 105.
105 win pace right
And
now.
they're the right now have the fourth best winning percentage
That's
in the
crazy.
league. Like
That's crazy.
that's ridiculous. Oh my gosh, they're 2.5 games behind the Phillies. Like that is like it from
That's
like
crazy.
a league wide perspective.
Yeah, and we've touched on the Orioles in this podcast before. It's just like a big youth movement with them, right? Like
Yeah,
Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman at catcher. They have Jackson Holiday in the minors, who's kind of been struggling, but he's 20 years old. Like, give
yeah,
him time. Orioles have just had a master class in how to build a team from scratch. Like for the last 10, 15 years plus, they were the laughing stocks of the league, right? And people had no hope. And then you get a front office that's willing to invest in the minors and willing to invest in the farm system. Now they have one of the best farms in baseball. They're just producing stud after stud. And it just speaks to the quality of their front office because they just never really gave up.
yeah. No, definitely. So good on you, Orioles. So Zach, who do you think is going to take it between these two, the Yankees and the Orioles? If you had a bet today, May 30th.
I'm going against the youth movement in Baltimore. I think their time will come, but this seems to be like the Yankees' year.
Hmm.
If this isn't the Yankees' turn to come out of the American League, I don't know when is going to be their turn.
Yeah, fair.
Yankees and Dodgers have kind of struggled in the postseasons as of late, but like both these teams need to meet in the World Series to satisfy their fan bases, right?
Yeah.
And the Yankees with their starting rotation with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, like they just have a lot of star power. It's going to be hard for the Baltimore to really compete with them in the playoffs. Even though Baltimore has, and I want to throw out another stat with the Orioles,
Mhm.
in the last 18 series, so with last night's win over the Red Sox, the O's extended their streak of series against AL East opponents' teams where they've either win or split the series to 18 in a row. That means in the
Wow.
last 18 series against AL East teams, they've gone 13-0 and five ties.
And that's
Spans,
against such a good division. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Iron
So
sharpens iron for if you're an Oriole, I guess.
yeah, it's crazy how you have that sort of record, but you're still looking up at the Yankees. It just
Yeah.
means to me that like the Yankees are just too good, and then if the Yankees don't pull ahead this season, I don't know when is going to be the time.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. So Zach, I wanted to kind of shift gears for a second, if that's okay with you.
Go
Um,
for it.
do we want to talk about De La Cruz or Angel next? I'll let you dealer's choice on this.
Let's do Angel Hernandez, man. We gotta
All
pay
right.
tribute. Pay
All right,
tribute.
we have to pay tribute to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Angel Hernandez. So I'm assuming if you follow baseball, this is probably not new news to you, but if it is, Angel Hernandez, infamous umpire. The fact that we know usually it's not a good thing if you know an umpire or ref's name. That's I think one thing I'm taking away from this retirement is like you can be bad if you're quiet about it, like,
Yeah, exactly.
because a few people came out and they're like, oh, you can actually see with tracking data, like he's not the worst, he's not good, but he's not the worst when it comes to like pitch calls, but it's just like the egregious mistakes he's made and the like the players going off on him and
Yeah.
like so I forget where I was listening to, but they yeah the they were saying that like basically what's different about Angel compared to like other umps with like the players themselves is like the players might get mad at another ump for a bad call, but like outside of the game, they're probably cordial, right? They're probably friendly. But like with Angel, it was not the case. It was like there was a like an actual like visceral disdain that a lot of the players have, right? And I don't know if that could be more of a personality issue, and like we Angel's getting a lot more hate because of who he is as a person, rather than like the reason we should dislike him would be not making the right calls or something like that. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna remember about this man, Zach?
I'm gonna remember Bryce Harper getting super mad at him. I'm gonna remember Kyle Schwarber getting
Schwarber
super
getting
mad at
super
him.
mad at him, yeah.
So that's not good, dude. Like you're an umpire and people know your name. People know you're not good. Umpire and referee is one of those jobs. Like the less people hear about you, the better.
Yeah,
It's a thankless gig. But if no one's talking about you, you're doing your job. It's kind of one of those things that like
yeah,
no news is good news. And the
yeah.
fact that like one of the common themes of this guy throughout his career was him appearing in the news ever so often of just terrible calls or a player getting really upset at him. And it just seemed like from afar, he was not a nice person.
Yeah,
Um,
he seemed
and
he seemed very stubborn and very like one of my favorite Angel Hernandez facts is are you aware that he sued the MLB more than once?
oh no.
So he sued the MLB twice for discrimination, essentially saying he wasn't being promoted when he should be. And this is like in a legal court document. They they didn't find the MLB guilty of anything because a legal court that has no bearing on sports said he was bad at his job. Like pretty much like a real life court document. Like you're so bad at your job, it's written like in a court literature, like in a
Yeah.
court case. Like that's so unfortunate. I also
I
think it's
think
really interesting it happened like just random day in May.
yeah.
I think they had reached a settlement. I'm sure like the settlement was like conditional on like, hey, we'll nip this in the bud if you just go, please.
Yeah. I think like over the past few years, I feel like he was still in the MLB to spite a bunch of people. He was just like, screw you guys, and I'm still going to do my job, even though I'm hated and I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, so he was an umpire for over 30 years, and I have a lot of respect for that. And like you said, it is a thankless job. So we are pro ump, but we want our umps to do their job. I think refs in all sports like should get paid more money personally. Like I think we'd have higher quality. Like it's wild to me that like NFL refs like have an off season to like the NFL's like their part time job. It's like no,
Yeah.
make it their full time job. If you got to make it easy because they're gonna like fans are always gonna hate them. Like
Dude, when I worked for the Phoenix Suns and I got to see on a nightly basis like live basketball games, one of my biggest takeaways was how hard being a referee is. Like
yeah.
the games move so fast, you're at the same angle as the players. Like the fact that these guys get any call right was just astounding to me. It's so hard.
Yeah, and like the umps who are really good, like are really freaking good, and that I think sometimes people hear like the ref like, oh, we want to bring more cameras in and stuff like that, and like in some ways, I actually think that's in support of the umps. Like, give them more tools to make decisions, and and then they can be comfortable with decisions. I don't love I know that. Again, baseball pod, but back in football when they did you remember when they implemented the basically you could review like certain like catch fouls like after the fact? Do you remember this like rule that they
Yeah,
put in for
vaguely,
one
yeah.
year and then they took away? So pretty much like the rule was like we can check pass interference and see if it was legit or not. Because if you're not familiar in football, pass interference has the potential to be the biggest foul in a game because it literally there's no limit on how far like how long the penalty is. Most penalties are 5 to 15. This could be it's at the spot of the foul, so if you throw a big pass it could be 50, 60 yards, so it's a big deal. It's sometimes the most important foul call, and they implemented it so they could review it. But then anytime like it was challenged by like a NFL coach, they almost never overturned it because they never wanted to admit they were wrong in the first place. I'm like, oh, I hate that mentality because it's just like it's okay to be like I wish we could all agree it's okay to be wrong as long as we get to the right decision at the end. That's all that should
Yeah.
matter. Like now if we want to say like it's okay to strike some of that away because games can take too long, that's maybe another conversation. But it's like just because we want extra eyes is to support these guys, so you don't have players knowing someone and just hating working
Yeah.
with them like you saw with our boy Angel. But I hope retirement's good for you, Angel. I really do,
Yeah.
genuinely. There's
I'll
no
pour,
sarcasm in my voice with that.
I'll pour one out for you, Angels. As bad as you were, you gave your heart to the game. Maybe, we didn't hear his name for the first like 10, 20 years of his career. Maybe he was a decent umpire then.
Yeah. I would love to know that. Someone do find this out. Someone who's watching. So one thing I wanted to talk about, we're talking about something, that's been around for a long period of time and hasn't really been as crazy since, maybe the 90s or something like that. And the thing that I put on the dock because I was like, Zach, I want to talk about this is Ellie De La Cruz and his steals. How high can this man go? He has 31 stolen bases, 11 more than second place. Like that is crazy. The distance, I'm going to do this right now. We're going to find out live. The distance between second and like the same is 26. Like that's how many, like 11 first to second is 11, and then second to 26 is 11 stolen bases. It's like
Wow.
difference. Oh my goodness. Like he's a whole third better than the next best person. Like that is crazy. Zach, if there were Christmas in June or May, I would ask Santa for one thing. Well, I'd ask for a lot of things, but I want 100 stolen base seasons so bad, Zach. I want
It
it.
would be so cool. Like with analytics becoming such a prominent part of baseball in the last 10, 15 years, one thing that's gone away has been stolen bases, right?
Yeah.
What the front office analytics people have determined is that stolen bases are a net negative for teams, right? If you're eliminating runners on base in any way possible, that's bad, right?
Yeah.
But when you have someone like Ellie De La Cruz, kind of like a Ricky Henderson type of guy,
Mhm.
you just tell him to run, man. Like he gets on base, it's an easy double. And
Yeah.
then I remember when he played the Dodgers a few weeks ago, he stole 3 bases in one inning, like or
Yeah.
2 bases. Just like uh, to have that guy on the bases and then he messes up with fucks up with what the pitcher's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like it just gets in the guy's head. It just adds a whole new layer of competitiveness in baseball. And yeah, his rookie season was last year. He only played 98 games and he had 35 stolen bases, right?
Yeah.
Well, in about 30 fewer games, he has 31 stolen bases right now.
Oh my, he
When he
has he has 50 hits and 31 stolen bases. That's more than half the time he gets a hit. Like I know there are walks involved, so I'm not gonna do that math right now. But like, oh my gosh, sorry I cut you off. I was geeking out on looking at these stats.
And guess what, Bobby? He is 22 years of
Mm.
age. He
Did
has his entire life ahead of him in baseball.
Yeah. Speaking of him getting better, did you hear about the sort of what Dave Roberts said about his base running?
No.
So Dave Roberts gave like sort of a backhanded compliment to him because he was like, this dude is like pretty much like the fastest thing ever, like was kind of, but it was also like, and once he figured us out how to actually steal bases correctly, he's gonna be like such a monster because like it wasn't, I'm making it sound worse than it was, but like that was kind of the implication. And why can't I think of John Boy, the guy, his actual name, John
Oh,
Boy Newby.
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy. He was intrigued by this, and he actually looked up. And I guess like Ellie De La Cruz, if he watches like stealing, like he steals differently than a lot of other players. He doesn't really give himself any momentum going forward. He just like goes. Like most people who are big base stealers are kind of like they're inching. They're doing like what like if any of you have pets and like there's a place they're not supposed to be or they smell food and they slowly like inch forward when you're not looking. That's kind of what they are. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Like you look away and it's getting closer to you. With him, he's like a sprinter, like getting off the gun. Like that's kind of his thing. And he does like this weird. It kind of looks like he's dabbing when he starts, and it's like it's so consistent. It wasn't like like literally you could like it's always like the second step. He's he's like kind of in this position,
I
and
think
it's
I know what you're
like,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like if he's doing this with like what seems to be like not the most optimal way, but I mean it's working for him. I'm not saying change your I'm just some dude. I'm not saying change how you run, but like but it was just an interesting observation. Like, yeah, like there's maybe sometimes I feel like this is true and like for people who are just so good that when you're so good, you don't like have to be as good at the fundamentals. You can kind of like get past that.
Yeah.
And but then if you add the fundamentals on top of that, then it just like kicks it to another gear. And so I just, you know, it's just he's so fast.
Yeah, and this having been his first full year in the majors, I just can't wait to see what's next for him. Like 22 years old is so young in baseball. You know, most guys don't get called up until they're like 23, 24, 25 because of
Yeah.
the arbitrate salary arbitration rules. But this guy was so good in the minors that he gets called up last year when he was 21. He's on this Reds team that has a bunch of young guys, but he's only played in 56 games, stole
Yeah.
31 bases. He must be on pace to do something ridiculous, but he hasn't even like entered his prime. He's not even close to his prime right now.
Yeah.
So if his batting just improves a little bit, he's averaging 250 right now, on base percentage 346. If that just improves just by 10, 15 points, the stolen base numbers will skyrocket even more than they are right now. So I
Yeah.
can't wait to see like what's in store for this young guy, and he's gonna be a star if he's not already one. You know.
Yeah. My big dream, Zach, and I don't know if this is possible, but I want him to be have like a Steph Curry like effect on three pointers, like he would like stolen bases. I want like analytics people to be like, oh, actually, the like this because there's ebbs and flows in sports all the time, right? You know, and like
Right.
football, oh, all the linemen are really bulky. Actually, we'll have a bunch of thin like people, so it makes it or like more agile people, so we can get around them. You know, like and then also then they get a little like more light, and then so like there's this like ebb and flow in different positions and different things like that. And I kind of hope for baseball. I love a good stolen base. I think that's one of the most exciting plays in baseball. I want more home plates to be stolen. Personally,
Yeah.
that's the most exciting play to me is stealing home base. Anyone who does it is like you're my I love you.
Well, when they announced that they're getting rid of the shift, right? They wanted sort of to get back to old baseball sort of ideologies, right?
Yeah,
Like get the nice fielding throw, like steal bases, and maybe we'll see a renaissance of it. You know, like speed is something that kills. It's one of the biggest attributes to good baseball players. Like if you're an outfielder that has good speed, you're going to get down a lot more fly balls than normal,
yeah,
right? And he is just he's a callback to old baseball. He's like I said, he reminds me of Ricky Henderson, even though I wasn't alive when Ricky Henderson was doing his thing. But
yeah.
the fact that he is kind of bringing it back is really cool to see. I just hope that he inspires other people to do the same because it is a sort of thing in baseball that doesn't get talked about enough, but it can really sort of, affect a game, right? If you have
Yeah.
someone that can get on base and they automatically steal a second, like boom, there's a runner in scoring position, kind of changes the whole inning, in a matter of seconds. So I'm excited to see what this guy. Oh, another sort of stat that's crazy. He had 35 stolen bases last year and at 388 at bats.
Wow.
He has 201 at bats and has 31 stolen bases. So
Wow.
if you just my quick math here, if you doubled that number, right, then you get close to the amount of plate appearances, and then you would double the stolen bases. He's on pace to get a lot more this year. So it's crazy how that works.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah, with stolen bases, they sort of like will have this exponential growth as he like gets is able to get more consistently on base, and we're seeing that improvement from year one to year two. And I think that's always like like I think there's always a concern you have a Billy Hamilton situation where it's like, oh, he could steal, but he's hitting like 190, and it would
Yeah,
like we're thankfully not we're not in that kind of situation, and I don't think we will be. I think I feel like he's like that, like he's one of those dudes who's just going to get better and figure it out. Uh,
totally, totally.
all right. So speaking of just impressive play, We're 2 months in. You know, this will be posted maybe June 1st, May 31st. We'll see. I don't know, but it'll be posted after 2 months of baseball, Zach. And if you had a vote, you're, let's just say, you know, fast forward 10 years, you're one of the people that gets to vote for Baseball Hall of Fame because you're such an accomplished podcaster and writer that they have to give you a vote, Zach. Who are you eyeing in what in the leagues? Like what are your current thoughts?
I got to give a shout out to a guy we mentioned earlier, Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles. I think as long as he stays hot and the Orioles stay hot, he's got to be considered. He's young, he's flashy, he hits home runs, he gets on base. He's doing really well right now. I think he is sort of the one that leads the pack for me. I mean, there's also Kyle Tucker of the Astros is having a really, really good season.
Really good
but
season.
I think when the Astros are not doing so well, I think that's when, you're the sort of the points to be MVP are kind of taken down a little bit because your team isn't doing as well.
Yeah.
But Gunnar, man, just want to pull up some stats right now. He has 18 home runs, 41 runs batted in, and we're only 2 months in the season right now. And
Yeah.
he is setting himself apart on a team. I mean, you have Adley Rutschman that's batting 300, but it seems like Gunnar is just getting all the praise because he deserves it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think as long as the Orioles continue to do well, I think you got to consider him for AL MVP.
Yeah, I think like if I had to bet money, I would pick him because I think I think of like how the narrative always plays into like these things, and I don't think they should, but like let's be real, they always do, right? And like one way I imagine this narrative kind of breaking down right now is like kind of like what you said is like you have Kyle Tucker, but the Astros aren't doing as good. You know, I think if in a world like if the Orioles finish first over the Yankees and it's as it is, I think that is a very compelling case for Connor. I wonder if like the Royals start doing better than Bobby Witt Jr. Maybe it gets a little more talk in that. And then I think for the Yankees, you have a lot of good players, but then that you run into that issue of you have a lot of good players, and so people can explain away your success. Well, it's like, well, of course Aaron Judge is doing good. He has Juan Soto on his team, and of course Juan Soto is doing good. He has Aaron Judge on his team, and it's like, and that sometimes happens. You know, I do wonder when we talk about NL in a second. I don't think it might affect like the Dodgers where, you know, you have these really good players and we try to find ways to like find that to be a knock against like MVP. It's like we want our MVPs to be this like a certain percent of carrying their team, but also like a certain percent like really good. Like I don't know what that fine line is, but I feel like that's what people want. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. I think when you're on a good team, it's hard to separate yourself from the team success. But just some projected stats for Gunnar Henderson that I think are pretty big standouts. He's on pace for 56 home runs this year,
Wow.
128 RBIs, and he's the same age as De La Cruz, man. He is 22 years old. He's 5 months younger than De La Cruz. He is just starting his career in Baltimore. Like you have this, like I know we touched on the Orioles already, but him, Adley Rutschman, Jackson Holiday, they have Heston Kjerstad in the minors. Like, you want to talk about a farm system? This could be some of the best young guys in a farm system that we've had in a long time. And I'm excited for this Orioles team. And Gunnar just seems to be like the leader of the youth movement. And for him to be considered of MVP so early on in his career just speaks to the levels that the Orioles are at right now. Yeah. And that's why I think you got to put him in the talk, right? Just because he's sort of the leader of the youth movement.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Anyone else from the AL you think could like being slept on or could be a dark horse?
I mean, it's hard. You can't talk about the AL MVP without mentioning Juan Soto.
Yeah, agreed.
He's a monster. I think just I'm pulling up his stats right now. He has 15 home runs, tied sixth, but he has a 312 batting average. He's fifth in OPS and 990. He's fourth in RBIs with 46. He is a bit I don't think one player can be a sole reason your team is doing well, but he brings so much like momentum and pizzazz, for lack of a better term, to a team that like pitchers are scared to face him. And when you have Aaron Judge and they're scared to face another guy on their team, like it's crazy. He has the discipline when he goes up there. Like he can draw walks at a pace that he's projected to have 108 walks this year, and his eye at the plate is unmatched.
Yeah,
you know, it's crazy the level that he's risen to. So I think you can't have an MVP talk without mentioning Juan Soto.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then I always have the dream. It won't happen this year because the hitters are too good, but I love a good pitcher MVP. So Seth Lugo, come on, let's give it to our boy Seth, who's just killing it. No, I'm kidding. But I think I think I love pitcher MVPs, but they don't happen very often because you need really a down year from hitting and the like. I think like across the league, hitting is down, but those who are hitters and doing good, like they're having some majorly great seasons this year.
Yeah, and do you want to go into the
The end,
National League?
yeah, the National League. So yeah, I who would be on your medal stand, your podium, or
I mean,
you don't have to necessarily put like first or second, or if like who's in this tier for you, who are the people in this conversation.
it's very difficult not to give it to, and I might be a little biased, but Mookie Betts, man.
Yeah,
Like he's hitting 340 right now, has, a crazy good season. He's not really the best defensively, even though he's at a brand new position, but he's been solid. He's a really good base runner. He's kind of like not talked about the most on the team because you have Shohei now. But
yeah,
he is consistent, dude. He gets on base, he gets home runs. He is solid. He's somehow having sort of an under the radar MVP season because of Shohei.
yeah,
But he's one of the best top 10 players in baseball. And I think you can't the Dodgers wouldn't nearly be as good without Mookie Betts. I am confident in saying that. I think Shohei brings his star power and his leadership, but Mookie has sort of been in the rock for this Dodgers team for about 4 or 5 years now,
yeah,
and it's hard to. He doesn't really do the flashy stuff that is going to get him on highlight reels, but he is just consistent. He is sort of the definition of what you're getting out of Mookie Betts on a day-to-day basis. He's not going to fall into any slumps. He's going to get on base. He's going to get his runs batted in. He's going to get his home runs, and he's just going to be a solid player like on any team he's on.
yeah. And I would agree that I think Mookie, he's just doing everything. Like he has 9 stolen bases, so he's giving you that. He has the best on base percentage in the league, best average. He is has the best hitting WAR, and like you mentioned, like his defense is probably like, I'm sure if he were to be honest, like not where he would want it to be, but he is in a like usually you go like the inverse. You don't go to shortstop, you leave shortstop, and so like that he's kind of put in this position. Like if he's able to like have a above average fielding like second half, I think like that there's such a cool narrative for him, because like I think an issue you can run into with Mookie is like, okay, he's won it before, people love a first time MVP, you know what I mean? Then we get annoyed when it's more for some reason. So
Yeah.
but yeah, he's just been excellent, and I think even though Shohei's been so good, I do think you have to ding him on the fact he doesn't play half in it, half the inning
Right.
all the time. And, that's not necessarily Shohei's fault, well, I will appropriately bump him when he's able to both pitch and hit. Right. So like,
Yes,
so like, just know Shohei's going to get his flowers when that happens. But, yeah, I think Mookie would be definitely my pick as well.
I mean, he's second in batting average right now, 332. He's sixth in OPS and 952.
Yeah.
His home run numbers, he's 48th in the lead in home runs right now, but just
And
what he
but
does.
the fact he's like 48th in home runs and 6th in OPS, like
Yeah.
he's hitting the ball. Like it may not be home runs, but he's moving, he's grooving.
Yeah. You can count on him getting. I know he doesn't have a long hitting streak or anything, but pretty much any game or every other game, he's going to get on base multiple times.
Yeah. No, definitely. So we talked about Mookie. I don't know if we need to talk about Shohei anymore, because I feel like we've talked about him a lot on this pod. But we will definitely talk about him as the season progresses, because God, his home runs are just. He had one of the home runs he hit against the Mets looked like he like missed the ball, and like it just like home run to the opposite field, and it like off the bat I was like, oh, okay, that's like going to be a pop up to the left.
Yeah. No. Them.
Who else is standing out for you in the NL?
I mean, it's just going to seem like I have a huge Dodger bias, but Shohei Ohtani too.
Yeah.
Like he's the fact that he's still in the hunt for WAR right now, even though he doesn't play defense. He's hitting 350. He's a complete hitter. He's capable of winning the Triple Crown right now.
Yeah.
This is his best season ever at the plate. Even though he's been the Angels for a number of years, the best season he's having right now is his first year with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And he's 14 home runs, sorry, 330 average, which is third. He's second in OPS in the league. It's over 1,000. He's on pace for 39 home runs, 106 RBIs. He is just a stud, an absolute stud. And the fact that the Dodgers have two of the top MVP candidates is crazy, but I think you got to put Shohei in the conversation as well.
Yeah, and WAR would have them be 1 and 2. So I'm gonna throw a little quiz question at you, Zach. So
Go for it.
I'm looking at WAR, which I know is not the perfect end all BL set, and I don't mean to use it as such in this conversation, but we'll imagine it's a stat that's got a little bit of heft to it. We'll imagine that. So there are only 3 NL players for hitting that are in the top 10 in the league in WAR. So we have Mookie, who's second or tied for first. And then you have Shohei, who's fifth. And then who do you think is this person's 10th? Who would you guess?
Is it Milwaukee Brewers player Willem Contreras?
It is. It is. Good guess. And catcher. So I think that deserves a little bit of acknowledgement. So good job, Willie. And then I was surprised at 4 and 5 and for the NL on this. Who would you guess 4 or 5 if you had to? Like just throw out some people.
Man, that's tough. Is Bryce Harper one of them?
No, surprisingly.
Hmm.
Yeah, where is Bryce on this list?
Is he even on the top 10?
No, he's not. He's he's not the top 11, but he's not. No, he's 27th in WAR overall. I don't know where that puts him in the NL.
No, you might as well tell me. I don't think I've ever done that.
So I was surprised by this, but Ketel Marte is 4th.
Oh yeah, he's having a really good season.
Yeah, that hitting streak could be doing a lot of like lift for that, but I will never fault a player for having a good hitting streak.
It's just quiet because he's on the Diamondbacks. You don't hear a ton of him, but
yeah,
he's a switch hitter that just gets on base and hits for power a lot. He's a really good player.
And then 5th, also in the NL West, you have Matt Chapman, which is interesting because I would have expected Profar who's 25th, but I would have kind of thought he would be higher. But yeah, no, it's interesting. No Braves really kind of, we didn't talk about really, and but just sorry, Ronald Acuna Jr. Like that.
That's sad. Yeah.
That's sad. We never want injuries for anyone, but especially our league's best. So, but I mean, the Braves, you got a lot of talent. Like I think you can still do big things, but that's a huge loss. But then, yeah, in Philadelphia, you have Bryce, but a little bit lower, but I think it might be Mookie's year again, potentially, if things can continue the way they are.
That'd be cool to see. The fact that he can play second, he can play short, he can play in the outfield. I wouldn't even be surprised if he could pitch at this point.
Yeah, they'll just be like, oh, he's been hanging out with Shohei a lot and he's learned some things.
Like all of a sudden he gets taught like a nasty curveball like that.
Oh my God. Oh, how do we clone him and just like have come on, Dodgers, listen, Dodgers, we're willing to spend $700 million for a player. Let's clone some people. Like, that's all I'm saying.
I like how the Mookie contract at the time was like, oh, this is a large deal. Like,
yeah,
he's somehow underrated right now, the amount of money.
Yeah, I think there are some of the large albatross contracts that fail. Albert Pujols, I don't know if he was worth it necessarily, but then you have Patrick Mahomes, when he signed the deal he did in the NFL, like everyone's like, oh my God, this is just, and now he seems like, again, it seems like the best value contract, even though it has the biggest end number. You divide it and just,
right.
But Mookie, so good. Anyone else you feel like deserves to be discussed in this conversation that we haven't talked about already?
Probably he's not there yet, and he's a rookie pitcher. But we have to talk about this guy. He's developing into probably one of my favorite players in the league. Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, man. He has been dominant in his rookie season. He's 22 years old. 2.45 ERA in 4 games started, 30 Ks to 5 walks,
Mm.
only giving up 6 runs. People are batting 195 against him. And
Oh,
what I thought was really telling of how good this guy is, you have Jeff Passan, who's a longtime MLB reporter, is kind of known to be one of the best in the game,
mhm.
right? He said that like if you had Game 7 of the World Series right now, he might be at the top of the list to start Game 7. He would say out of all the pitchers in the majors right now. So the fact that he's
Wow.
a rookie and he's getting that type of praise, this dude is please just stay healthy because
Please. Yeah.
if he stays healthy, he's gonna be a menace for like a couple decades, I
Hey,
think.
hey, hey, Paul, come listen to me. If you got any injuries, I got extra body. Take my UCL, take my shoulder, take
Yeah.
whatever John of Tom you need, right? Just take it all. So
Yeah, he's insanely good, and I think he had a near like perfect game the first like start he had against the Cubs, and
yeah.
he's just ridiculous and absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I a good call there. Yeah, I don't it started the season probably too late, even if he is amazing, but maybe he gets I don't know. It might be hard with how good some other the NL pitchers are because God, how I feel about the league is kind of like a theme is like the top end of whatever it is, whether it's the teams or like the pitchers or the batters are just so incredibly high caliber.
Yeah.
Like if it, the league, I don't know if this makes sense. It feels very professional. Like I know that's a dumb thing to say about it, but like I think like in the past, baseball sometimes been criticized of like you could. Babe Ruth is like one of the best hitters of all time, and that dude probably had like a couple of hot dogs a day, a beer, and God knows if he ever exercised outside the game. But like that's not what it is now.
Yeah,
You got these like high caliber star athletes who are just they're so entertaining. I please folks, we gotta make baseball popular again. That's what I want.
I think we're getting there. I think the pitch clock is helping a lot. I
I
think
agree.
you have these stars sort of developing. You have the Shohei following. I think Paul Skeens is even developing a little bit of following for himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Orioles are a young team that people like to root for. I think baseball is making a good comeback. And we discussed it before. If we have like a Dodgers Yankees World Series, I think that's going to bring a lot of eyes to the
Yeah.
game when you have such star power. I know I'm a Dodgers fan, I'm biased, but if we could get that World Series, I think that's going to propel baseball into being way more popular than it is now because it's a grand stage. You have guys like Soto and Judge and Ohtani and Betts.
Mhm.
I think that would elevate the sport to new heights. And so I'm hoping, I think one of the problems that baseball has is the playoffs can be a crapshoot, right? So
Yeah.
you have a team like the Diamondbacks last year that made it after not having a great regular season, and they didn't really have the star power for you to tune in to a Rangers Diamondbacks World Series. If you had the best stars kind of in the greatest games, I think you're going to see a ton of viewership. Like for example, the World Baseball Classic a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh, I mean, people talk about the last at bat all the time between Ohtani and Trout, right? You have Ohtani facing Mike Trout teammates,
yeah.
and you had a lot of eyes on that, right? So if we can get the stars on the biggest stage, in sort of the most, in the World Series, I think that's going to create a lot of good, generate a lot of fans for baseball.
Yeah, I agree. Baseball, I think we're making the game better, but we need to now make the marketing match the changes we gotta make the sport as hype as it is. Cause like, man, like the feeling inside a baseball stadium is like no other. I don't know if it's just I don't know. It just feels that way, and I want to bring that energy into like the social media and like the watching of it, right? Like I think football and basketball do a good job of making games feel epic in the moment. I don't know if baseball always does that. Like you might have a really good announcer who can do that, but I don't know if it's like we need to bump up the sound of the fans because like baseball games or basketball games like in the playoffs like you can sometimes it feels like hard to hear the announcers right because they're actually announcing from the stands a lot of the time
Right.
and so I and just something I want a little more spice.
I think baseball's in good hands. I think if we had a crop of players that could lift this sport to the
Yeah,
next level, I think we have that. And I'm
I
excited to see
agree.
what these young guys do, like the Orioles, like Paul Skeens, like Shohei. I think if we can baseball could do a better job of marketing these guys, then I think we could get a lot more people watching
Yeah,
the
I
game.
mean, like the last thing I'll say, and then I think we can, start concluding is like Mike Trout is, maybe the biggest star, like in terms of just talent so far that we've, in terms of long career, right? Shohei and other people, I think can get there
Yeah,
potentially, which is a big thing to say because Mike Trout, like his underlying metrics are like whole, top 20 of all time, like hitter kind of metrics. Like, I'm not trying to undervalue Trout, but like who knows outside of like baseball fans who Mike Trout is, right?
right.
And like even then, like Mike Trout fell to the seventh in fantasy drafts this year, like
Yeah,
he is hurt, but is like we forget about like maybe one of the most talented players of all time who like is still good. It's not like he's like maybe he's past his prime, but it's not like any team would love to have him right now, So it's just
right.
like, but who really knows who he is, right? And he's a quiet guy, and that I don't mean to like. That's not. I'm not putting any blame on him, but like, baseball could have done more. I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Commercials. I don't know. Marketing. There's stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Zach, it's been great potting with you. Any last things you want to throw out there into the baseball podcast universe?
I just want to say shout out to MLB for doing something really good this week. They instituted Negro League stats into their stat
Mhm.
database, so now you have a new OPS leader in Josh Gibson. You're
Yes,
having these guys getting their recognition that for a long time they didn't. I think that was a really good
I
thing for
agree.
MLB to do, and I'm very happy that they did it. And I have a hot take before we leave. I don't like any City Connect jerseys, Bobby. We got to get rid
Mm,
of these things. I like the traditional baseball. Give me the Dodgers with the white with the blue lettering. I don't
yeah.
like this new wave of uniforms. I think basketball does it a little better, but MLB for some reason it's not vibing with me. I think
Yeah,
you
I
guys.
think basketball, like, just like the uniforms are like usually good. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like it's someone's job in basketball to make the uniforms. And I feel like for baseball, it's like a list of their mini tasks or something like that. Like
Yeah,
there's just like there's some quality control stuff that like uniforms up and down the board this whole year for baseball, which like I
yeah,
can't remember the last time I've cared or thought about a sports uniform. Like in
yeah,
terms of like
exactly.
actually thought about it, like in any
Right.
sport. And so baseball again, like, we're doing so much good. Fix these city connects, but yeah, but I agree. Really good decision to put those stats in, and it's crazy if you Josh Gibson. If I was looking at his stats, and so it's only like the official games that happened because if they considered unofficial, he'd actually had over like 900 home runs in his like career, but like
Oh wow.
the official games that puts him lower. So otherwise, we'd have a new home run leader too. But his splits are just chef's kiss. So
Yeah,
so
ridiculous.
yeah.
Good on MLB, Ben. I'm really happy
Yeah,
to see
good
it.
on MLB and good on players like Josh and all the others that, paved the way for not just athletes in baseball, but athletes in all sports across America and the world. So, good on you. Good on you. All right. I think what a great note to end the first 2 months of baseball on is like baseball, I feel like for a long time was making a lot of bad decisions and we've been making some good decisions. So I agree with you, Zach. I think things are trending in a positive direction. And on behalf of Zach and I hope things for all of you are going to trend in a positive direction the next time, till the next time we meet. And even the times after that, I hope it's positive too, but especially until the next time we meet. All right. Have a wonderful day, y'all.
It was a pleasure, Bobby. Take care, guys.
Yeah, take care.